And we'll start with the silent silent meditation and the pledge.
Go.
I pledge allegiance
To
to the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United States of America
and
and
to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
all.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Mayor, can you go ahead and do the roll call, if you will?
Yes, roll call, Madam Chair. Member Fruitstone,
Present.
Vice Chair McLean,
Present.
Chairperson Carpenter.
Present.
Madam Chair, you do have your quorum. Madam Chair, for the record, we do have the village manager here, Ms. Christia Liu. We do have Mr. Hugh Gladwin, Mr. Colin Brown, they act as consultants. We do have Mr. Orlando Rubio. We have Ms. Camila Zabla. They will be on here for a particular item today, and they act as our planning and zoning and engineers. And we have various members of IC Change, and we have a new friend of the family and the Everglades Law Center, and she's here with us also. So you have a full house, Madam Chair. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you everybody for joining us. Looks like it's going to be a great task force meeting. Before we jump in to the substance of the agenda, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, but that was the right date for the next meeting. I think I left off.
That's
right?
today's
No,
date.
I looked at it. That's the wrong date.
Yeah, it's because when I was doing it, so it was like that window was still open. The WordPerfect window was still open, and I was getting so many calls and stuff. And I was like, "Why is this window open? I've already finished this." So I like clicked send, and after I sent it, I was like, "Oh, I know why that window was open. I didn't finish the last thing." But anyway, it's all good. We'll get there when we get there.
No problem. Yeah, we can talk about proposed dates when we get there. So aside from the next meeting being today, any other changes to the agenda? No. Okay. Also wanted to say a happy belated birthday to the mayor, whose birthday was yesterday. Thanks for all your hard work and joining us.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
You're still answering emails and phone calls and text messages. All right, so no changes to the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. I second.
Oh, Matthew's here as well. Wonderful. Okay, so motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, agenda is approved. And we're going to hold off on approval of minutes as well. Mayor, does that make sense? Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Great. I think we've gone through our acknowledgement of visitors. I see that Juan joined and Matthew's joined. Thank you guys. Great to see everybody. Nice big group today. And we'll start before we jump into IC Changes presentations. We'll start with good and welfare. Any good and welfare comments, thoughts, remarks from folks that are not on the task force? All right, jump right in. So as you guys can see, we're going to have a presentation from IC Change to begin with. Those are the folks that we talked about last task force meeting that are doing the reporting of flood and heat and other elements in our neighborhoods. Then we're going to talk about stormwater master planning, Saturday's event, and LMS. So we'll start right in with item H1, and I will pass it to you, Claudia and team at IC Change, to walk us through a brief presentation. And I know I mentioned in our emails that when I kind of did the overview of this during our last task force meeting, I know that people had some good questions. Maybe we could leave some time for questions as well if possible.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. Let me just share my presentation here. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Elizabeth, again for this opportunity. My name is Claudia. I'm with IC Change. We are a data and engagement platform that helps cities and counties design climate-ready infrastructure to combat climate change. And we've been actively tracking flooding for the city of Miami since 2020, and we are the official flood tracking tool for them. as you may already know. We recently launched a one-year pilot with Miami-Dade County, and that is the reason why we're here today. So we all know the challenges very well. At IC Change, we like to say people are the best sensors. When not everyone has the time to drive to City Hall or county for public comments, IC Change provides an accessible way for communities to civically engage in a way that supports cities in designing equitable solutions around the ever-changing challenge of climate change. So we've developed a platform that provides an easy way to manage real-time flooding for incident management, ground truth statistical models, and create a long-term record for planning and engagement around climate impacts. The solution, IC Change, is a community platform for climate response in short terms. So now you're probably wondering what this platform is about. So this platform can be accessed from your phone or computer. It's currently available in English and Spanish, and soon in Haitian Creole. IC Change is an AI-enabled tool that allows residents to share photos, videos, stories, and other data points about climate impacts in your neighborhood. That is flooding, heat, down trees, you name it. But our focus for this presentation is flooding. So hyperlocal value in community trends is where IC Change shines. Each contribution to IC Change offers a hyperlocal insight and trends, providing valuable GIS data and spotlighting areas needed with urgent attention. So it's a platform that turns your observation into actionable data. And we activate communities to measure and fill data gaps. Your stories and images make a difference, helping us and cities and counties understand community needs and brainstorm local solutions based on the information provided by the community. So the dialogue here, the data API integrations, is that IC Change fosters real-time dialogue and integrates with climate and weather networks, and as AI coded to categorize data for solution planning. So this means that your submissions sync with official data, enriching our understanding of local climate impacts. I'd like to walk you through the case study for flooding in New Orleans, our home base. And we are a national company. We also operate in another city dealing with constant flooding and sea level rise challenges, which is New Orleans. And we deployed IC Change to help collect flooding data ahead of federally funded project to reduce flooding in low-lying and under-resourced neighborhoods. So the goal was to engage residents who are often not present at the table and ground truth. Where was it actually flooding, and do new resilience projects account fully for these neighborhood challenges? IC Change led to a fourfold increase in community participation, revealing critical data that reshaped a major flood mitigation project and diverted an additional $4 million to the project. So we've done similar work with the City of Miami through engaging residents in Alapata, Little Havana, and Wingwood, helping allocate an additional $20 million in new stormwater projects thanks to reporting on IC Change. So our approach is simple. We engage, activate, track, and analyze. We support public participation that results in actionable data for cities, track events to reveal hidden patterns, and uplift voices of communities that are hard to reach. Through our partnership with Miami-Dade County and their focus on the adaptation action areas, we're eager to hear more from residents of El Portal. Residents' posts help prioritize flood zones, document impacts for planning, and justify future investment. So your involvement here is crucial in shaping a resilient community. And as you can see here in this map, we just started gathering. These are all these dark bullet points that you see here are posts, and people who have already shared a photo or a description of an impact that they're seeing in their neighborhood. The ones that are in dark color means that I haven't looked at it, and the others are those that I just checked. So that's the difference. But these are also what you see here, right at the mouth of the river is Belle Mead, and so there are also posts coming in. But we are really looking for your help to have residents fill in this map and really pinpoint where the impacts are. So like I showed you in my first slide, that is the 3D projection for sea level rise of 5 feet above sea level, and that includes also storm surge. So as I also mentioned in the beginning, that flooding models can be often outdated or not as precise, where people in our communities, residents, know exactly where the issue is, and it could be 2 blocks off, and that completely can redistribute and an entire project. So having the community involved at this time, where we know that the county is really looking at this particular area that is in the map that you are all looking at, it's very important for us to really place funding correctly. And not only that, but to really provide the services that our communities need right now. So we're here to seek for your support in any way that would be possible. And we're really looking forward to collaborate to make meaningful change. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here with Caroline, who is our project manager, and she lives in New Orleans. So we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Is there a cost for this service, or how is it funded and structured?
It's a free app, and it has, we started in 2020 with the city of Miami. We were funded by the Knight Foundation. And so that was a 1-year pilot project, which is what we currently have with the county. But then the city saw the value in IC Change and the posts that were coming in for the engineers and the planners. The information that we're receiving was in a very organized manner, and it really made their job more concise and, like to really work faster. Where with 311, it can be disorganized, and you would have to pull from different sources to kind of come up with analysis and reports at the end of a weather event. So for that reason, we have been procured with the city of Miami for 3 years. And now we're on to the next partner, in this case, the county, because we were also receiving several flooding reports from outside the city of Miami jurisdiction. And so as we close the gap by having these partnerships with the cities and counties that can do something about it. And yes, we just kicked off, and we have this entire year to engage the community. It's free, easy to use. And I also live in Miami, so I'm available to present, to talk to the communities and different organization groups.
And then your partners, they have kind of access to the information. Is that like a report that's generated, or do they have kind of visibility into a kind of overview of their area?
Yeah. Do you mind, Claudia, if I jump in real quick? So as Claudia was just running through, the Miami-Dade County does have kind of access to what you're referring to for this year. So there's an entire backend to IC Change. If you guys are ever interested, we would be happy to set up time and show that. Through this year, though, we will be engaging, around these adaptation action areas, as Claudia explained. And so we've been really excited to connect with Elizabeth and actually multiple of you on some of our earlier webinars in the fall through that. And so the county will have access to that backend data for this year. But that's something that's available to, municipalities or counties as they seek, if they would be interested in in something like that. But the front facing side of IC Change, which we're happy to also run through another time, is completely free of access. Residents would never, need to pay a dime or anything like that.
Kristen?
Yes. So one of the questions I had last time, first of all, this is fantastic. And I'm really excited about it. And I appreciate you guys coming to talk to us about it. I was really excited when I heard about it last time. Does the map get updated? And you may have sent this, and I apologize if it went by me. Does it get updated in real time? Like, so can we use this map during rain events to identify which neighborhoods intersections are flooded? For instance, if people are reporting.
Yes, to the first part of that question. And so part of the reason that, so that's kind of referring to the back end that I was just referencing. So our customers who are either through a pilot or through procurement, as Claudia described, who have that back end access are able to see that data in real time. And there's a number of other like features and reports and things that are generated in that sense, because the information that residents are reporting is sensitive. From a public view, we don't share specific addresses. You're able to still see the post data as it comes in on your feed. It updates as quick as Instagram or, another social media. But you wouldn't be able to access the exact locations and a few other features on the free version in that sense. Oh, and you're on mute, Kristen.
One of the use cases, so I live in Biscayne Park. I sit on El Portal because I used to be a resident down on the river. And during flood events, being able to, and I have a kid who goes to school downtown, and being able to identify where flooding is happening in real time, if you have to drive a route through a neighborhood or navigate downtown during a rainstorm. So are you saying there is a paid version where you can do that, or it isn't available at all to the general public?
So there's a paid version where, I guess it's a complicated question. So we wouldn't necessarily, we have different agreements with different partners. So we do work with nonprofits and researchers, and it looks different for everybody. We know that people have we have a do no harm business policy. So we only work with people who are focusing on bringing solutions to communities. Those organizations have different levels of access that depend on what project they're working on, the topics they're focused on, and the location. Residents aren't equipped at this time with like a map view but they are able to see through a different view, basically a feed of what's going on in their area based by location.
Got it.
The reason, so part of and Claudia touched on this, we were excited to be working with Miami-Dade County and with the resilience team. And they've, flagged to us this work in the adaptation action areas and just a general need to hear more from residents and understand what are the ways that flooding is impacting their quality of life in a way that they can amplify and like further prioritize the need for funding in these areas. Like obviously the flooding is very severe, and they've elected to use us as a tool to help document and kind of amplify the issues that many communities are facing. So we're, this is kind of our bread and butter. We, as Claudia mentioned, we've grown out of New Orleans. We've done a lot of work in the city of Miami, and we're just interested to engage in whatever ways you guys would be open to. So we're happy to feed into and support, if you guys have initiatives or events, but we're ultimately just looking to kind of provide service to you guys and see what way our tool can, kind of further what your main priorities are going into this year. And we want to make sure that, El Portal residents' voice gets heard as we're kind of in the midst of working with the county on that.
And while everything that Caroline has said is perfectly true, I may want to add a little bit that may help you to clarify this, Kristen. So for example, I personally have a client access, which would be the access that counties and cities receive. And as a regular user, you are able to see the sightings. So for example, if I am a regular user, and someone makes a post in Coral Gables, it'll show us Coral Gables, Florida. But in the client access, I will have the exact pinpointed address. And this is for the inspectors, for the people who need to have an exact address to go to that particular spot to fix the problem, right? And so when you asked if I am driving and it's flooding and I would like to see what other areas are flooding, without declining access, you can see the map, but you can see the post. So you can't see the map, but you are able to see the posts. So if there are people that are posting, you will be able to see it in real time, kind of like Facebook or Twitter. This is a sort of form of social platform, but for infrastructure, for flooding. And I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. I understand. I mean, that's helpful. I think I'm trying to just tease apart like I as somebody who's involved in the river and obviously in these issues by sitting on this board, from a governmental tracking point of view and a data building point of view, to be able to make the case for the kind of infrastructure money that we're trying to go after, or to help pinpoint a problem area that we might want to bring to the county's attention. It makes total sense. Yeah, I think what I was asking about was the use case as a community member, whether or not, because just being able to drive in a rain event in the city is, just from a point of pain as a resident, that is, that's a whole other problem. And but it sounds to me like, down the road there might be an opportunity for a citizen web developer to put together some kind of API that could do that. What I want Google Maps, but with flooding on it. That's really what I want.
Yeah, and so we've
actually is there already on Google Maps.
But it's not consistent, and it's not at the local level. It doesn't show like the flooding that happens at the end of my block, for instance, right? Like it doesn't know the small.
Yeah, it depends if it stops traffic or not.
Right, exactly.
And to your point, Kristen, I think your brain is exactly, we've gone back and forth on a public facing map. Some of our hesitation is around there's residents and community members who we would love to give more knowledge to, but we don't want it in the wrong hands of insurance companies and
or just people who are trying, like once you bump up against trying to sell a house, you don't want people to be able to see like you want a little friction in the system so that
we're always
there's just a lot of competing there's a lot of competing priorities. I totally understand.
Any other questions?
I have a couple questions. 2 questions. The first one, just from a municipality's perspective, coming out from the Village of El Portal task force, have you found that municipalities who are subscribed and get to see this on the back end are using this to, play into their stormwater permits and operations, or is it more so being used for deciding where to build future infrastructure projects?
So it honestly varies. We've worked with different cities in different ways. We kind of see the use cases in 3 buckets. So first is that kind of maintenance and operations. A part of the pilot we didn't touch on with Miami-Dade County is working with the road, bridges, and canals team as part of public works. So they've actually already been, since pilot started in October, actively onboarded. They receive reports just as they do. 311 operators are in there. They can respond on the platform, which also creates a nice like 2-way dialogue versus a 311 black box scenario that sometimes happens. We've got second bucket, which is, planning. And Claudia touched on that in some of the slides. The data really lends itself to that when you drill into how much data is in a single post that, has longevity, plenty of use cases. And the third chip is engagement and stewardship. We're actually trying to explore new ways that we can not just involve people to, quote unquote, complain about flooding, but actually become stewards of their community, learn about how they can help, protect their block, protect their families, empower their community to, feel that they have ownership over, the resilience initiatives and things like that. So we work just with a variety of departments in that regard.
Okay, great. So have you guys seen anyone use it to help comply with their MS4 permits, with their stormwater permits, and some of the various requirements in that, like education or like you said, maintenance, I think, clean out?
That's a great question that I will defer to Julia. So I'm a little bit newer with the company. I've been here about a year. And Claudia, unless that's on you, we can get back to you with that question. She's like our deep bed of knowledge, and has a little more technical experience than I do. So I can let you know about that.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you. And the second question I had was, I'm imagining how great this would be for the South Florida Water Management District or the Army Corps to be able to have some of this information and when they're doing, their core projects and climate resilience projects. But I think what I'm hearing is that to access that information, the Water Management District or the Army Corps would have to become a client and purchase the subscription in some way.
Exactly. And we are trying to figure that relationship out actually as we speak.
Okay. I was going to ask, is there any outreach
with
on that
Carolina's
front?
team and doing the same kind of, that always ends up coming into play. And so we want to find a way to, support what everyone's trying to do. And then also at the same time, still protecting our community members and what they're sharing with us, because we do value our digital community. But yeah, great point.
Thank you.
And we're thinking about
Great
that.
to hear. Does anyone have any other questions? So I guess a question would be, if we wanted to, help share this information with our community member, with our residents, seems like there's kind of two steps. One would just be sharing it so that we can aggregate this information. And the second would be whether or not we consider El Portal using it in an official backend capacity. Is that right?
Yeah, that would, I think, and Claudia, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth, we met with you as, we operate on all these different levels, and we're like a small, passionate team. But we're entering this, as partners, and in this pilot, we want to make sure that we're supporting, all the municipalities represented, as part of the Miami-Dade County too. And so, that first level, I think, is just, we'd love, to connect to any communication streams that you guys have. We've got all the graphics and the stuff written out. We'll make it really easy. We won't, we don't want to add anything to anyone's plates, but we can kind of sync into whatever you're doing. As Claudia mentioned, she's around to lead in-person trainings or events on flood tracking. We got cool rain gauges. Like we like to nerd out. And then that second piece, Elizabeth, if you guys are interested, we'd love to hop on a more focused call. It could be with this whole group, it could be with a smaller group, and learn more about, like, kind of drill into y'all's main pain points. And then we could show you the full back end and the full platform experience to give you a better run of what we're looking at.
Yeah, we'll set up, Madam Chair, if I may. We'll set up something, Madam Chair, with you, myself, and the village manager, and we'll try to pinpoint that down and just kind of talk about details.
All right. That's great.
That sounds wonderful. And if we follow up with like any outreach materials, is there someone and Claudia and I should coordinate that with specifically? Yeah,
reach out to myself and the manager and Chairperson Carpenter.
Amazing. Mayor, I've heard of your outreach techniques, and they're the best I've ever heard. So I'm excited to work with you guys.
We're all here for you.
Wonderful. We'll be in touch. And thank you so much for also giving us the time and for having this discussion.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity, and we really look forward to talking, connect, and we'll be in touch. Thank you all.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that before we move on to the next item? No. Okay, moving on to H2, stormwater and possible wastewater green infrastructure ideas. Turn it over to you, Mayor.
All right, myself, Manager Lewis here. We have Mr. Rubio, we have Ms. Zabala, and we have Juan. Oh, there he is, Mr. Muller. I'm going to, so we all spoke about, we have stormwater master plan, we have wastewater master plan, and thank you to Manager Lou, Chairperson Carpenter. We were in a meeting and we were just talking about different things. We were like, well, I was kind of coming from like a money standpoint, but Chairperson Carpenter, Manager Lou, we're coming from a standpoint of what is needed, just like for the environment, and both kind of came together at the same time, saying that we need a more green infrastructure aspect to our stormwater master plan for the most part, and for anything we can do with wastewater, which we discussed last time in the task force meeting, that there's not much we could do with wastewater, but stormwater would be the main focus that we would focus on. And I don't know if Manager Lou wants to jump in, but she helped gather the troops and from two different organizations that we use, and to bring them here to speak about that.
Thank you, Mayor, for the intro on this. It's been a process. We did meet with Chair Carpenter about this several months ago, and it just developed into something more. And then we had the issue of what's happening with flooding on some of our swales and the material that residents are using even outside of what is allowed by the code. But, we do have some swales that have major issues with flooding and or so much shade they don't grow grass. And so we then pulled in our urban planners with Pluserbia, who have always been trying to get us to look at this whole issue about pervious paving and what we do with these swells and how do we plan ahead. So I met with our senior engineer, Orlando Rubio, and with the excellent team at Pluserbia, Juan Muralat and Camila Zabla to kind of bring us together to see how we can get from the engineering perspective as well as planning something that works together. So we invite Mayor Nickerson offered the invitation, and I'm so happy he did, because we were able to meet and plan some things, and we want to really present this to the community. But it's a good thing to get this task force engaged as well while we're still in the infancy of those plans before we present to council and then move forward with funding and all of those things. Because also we do miss opportunities for funding applications for grants and what have you, because we don't have certain things already in place. We aren't shovel ready in certain respects in terms of like a vulnerability assessment, those kinds of things. So we have our folks here are long-term supporters and senior thinkers to present their scopes to you, to talk about what we are envisioning for this plan and to give your feedback and to get your insights. So I want to just maybe introduce Juan and Camilla first, because they've got the urban planning perspective, and then we'll tie in Mr. Rubio to do more technical and engineering matters after that. So Juan and Camilla, would you like to kind of start and talk about what you envision for the planning that's needed for the village as we move forward in a greener way?
Thank you, Cami. If you want, I'll take it. If that's okay with you. So I think it's been about 3 years since we've met with this group. So it's been a while. And thank you for the opportunity. We have been talking about this for a long, long time. In fact, we've been involved with you for almost 10 years, and we've been advocating for, right, Hugh has been there since the beginning. And we've been advocating for more resilient everything, right? So we've been involved more than anything with the private realm, and that would be from your property lines, your private land. And we have in the past updated the code to try and make it more, if anything, more pervious, so that your stormwater events last less and have less of an impact on your properties. Now, in any city, it takes two to tango, right? So it's the private and the public. And the next task, which is very important as well, because it's a large percentage of your area, is your public realm, which in your case, more than anything, is made up of your streets. So I was just looking while I was getting ready to chat with you guys. It's interesting. In the last 100 years, it's estimated that sea level rise has increased between, some people say 6 inches, and the maximum that somebody said was 12 inches. So things have changed since the village was first platted. And the other thing that has changed is the way that we move. right? So in the 1920s, the first time that El Portal was annexed by the city of Miami, I believe it was 1925. Model T was just, coming out about 10 years old. So, now we have a lot of different ways to move. Back then, the priority of connectivity wasn't that high or as high as it is now. Pedestrian safety was, I guess, at an all-time high because cars were not really out there yet. So there's a lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of things that we can improve in our public right of way, and I think that it's time. Many cities are updating their infrastructure to adapt to the needs of the public, but also to adapt to the climate change. So in the last 10 years, we've put a wealth of information. And if I may, I will share screen real quick because I want to show you what we already have, and then I will tell you what we want to do. Can I share screen? Yes, I can. So for those of you that don't know, this is where you live. And what we have in the past, we've collected the information. Obviously, you have different types of ownership in terms of your streets. You've got some city streets, you've got some county streets. You've also got traffic counts, and what we're very pleased is that up until now, we've never partnered with engineers, which is extremely important because whatever we come up with needs to be implementable. We want to think pie in the sky, but we want to be able to, eat the pie, right? We want to be able to implement. So we want to make sure that the traffic counts are up to date, that they are correct. We've also looked at where there are sidewalks and where there's no sidewalks. Why is that important? Because if we make any changes to streets, we want to make them once. We want to make sure that residents are not bothered 20,000 times. There's stormwater being updated. Well, if we update the stormwater, we're going to break the street. We might as well improve the way that we move. Whether or not we have sidewalks is also important. Always add sidewalks. Bikeability, all these things, we want to make sure that we address them from the very beginning, and we want to make sure that we address them with the public. All of this that I'm showing you today has not been done with you. It has not been done with the residents, and also we want to make sure that we are in line with the objectives and desires of the residents of El Portal. Street widths is also something that Orlando is going to work with us to make sure that we have the right information. And then we began a few years ago to look at what the possibilities were. So currently, most of El Portal is made up with 30% travel lanes and then 70% of swale and sidewalks. Part of the reason why we were approached years ago was an issue with parking on swales, illegal parking, driveways that, cars come out and take over your sidewalk. So we thought, and again, this is part of the thinking and part of the scope of this project, is that we would like to solve several problems at the same time. One is resiliency, is at the top of our list. 2 is parking. And 3 is to continue to beautify the village, which makes it so unique and adds to your property value. So all of these things can be done if we just put our heads together and make sure that we address the issue of resiliency together with the issue of livability and the issue of transportation and traffic. I'm not going to go into the detail of all of these things that we came up with. This is something that we will use as part of our background analysis. But just to tell you that one of the things that we want to begin to look at is the way that people move within your village, not just your residents, but also people that cut through. Another major issue that we've heard time and time again, people cutting through your streets in order to not be in traffic, right? Not be bumper to bumper. So there's a lot of methods that we can use. This is one of them that we studied for another project, and we thought that it might be a good idea to at least analyze and whether or not it's useful to the village. This is one way in which intersections are limited in terms of mobility. That could happen in several locations. Again, in order to create a more safer environment within your streets. And then obviously once we begin to play with the amount of asphalt that we have, if that's a possibility while working with the engineers, is what do we do with that extra extra amount of land, and the idea, of course, is it goes back to item number one, which is resiliency, potentially adding more space for permeability within your streets. In other words, trying to match what our code does to your properties, encourage permeability, encourage resiliency, also to be applied into the streets. I can answer questions. Again, this is just a very quick study without any feedback, any input from anybody. What I'm trying to show you is that we are ready to hit the ground running. And the first thing that we are going to do, since the manager asked me to go over our scope, is to do public engagement and make sure that we capture the objectives of the village and the appetite for change and the appetite for adaptation. And the second thing that we will do is, in collaboration with your engineers, with Orlando, is to put together a plan that looks at short-term, medium, and long-term changes that can improve, again, livability, mobility, and resiliency throughout the village. Once that plan is approved, or once that plan is complete, the idea would probably be to get it adopted by the village. And just like the comprehensive plan, be an objective-driven, a vision-driven, an action-driven plan that can be implemented over time. I think I've covered everything, but I will stop right there and answer any questions that you may have, unless Camila has anything to add.
Or should we allow Mr. Rubio to now speak from an engineering side, and then if you all have some questions, we do that? Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Juan. That was a pretty good explanation of what you're going to be doing. So back in 2002, we did a village-wide stormwater master plan. We made recommendations for improvements to provide flood protection, improved flood protection for the village. This was before climate change was even mentioned. This is before the village had any thoughts about going from septic to sewer. Now we have, the septic to sewer master plan in place. And, we've been, dealing with climate change, sea level rise impacts to our coastal community clients. So one of the things we would do in our updated stormwater master plan is to look at the scenarios that Pluserbia is proposing, and then look at those reduction in impervious areas and come up with a model that'll compare the existing conditions versus the proposed greener condition, with some of the stormwater improvements we plan for in the village. For example, because the village is pretty much fully developed. Unlike a brand new subdivision, you can't install stormwater ponds unless you're going to be thinking about buying homes, and that's not a possibility in many cases. Plus, it becomes a liability issue when you have a pond so close, within a residential neighborhood and children. So we've implemented, underground storage with trench, roadside swell systems where we can put them. But in that master plan, we will also look at green infrastructure BMPs that could be implemented in lieu of some of the exfiltration trench we plan throughout the entire village, which does provide a flood control benefit plus a water quality benefit to the river, because exfiltration trenches are a retention system. It retains water, and therefore you're introducing less pollutants to the river when you convert ultimately from a septic to sewer system. That too will greatly help the river. The the sea level rise situation, you know, all the green infrastructure, you can implement, but you're dealing with elevation rise, and that involves protecting your roads. And to do that, in the low-lying areas of the village, which are the southern streets in the southwest area of the village, like Miami Beach, they have to raise their roads to offset the impacts from the climate change, sea level rise. Now they're in the coastal side of things. The village is right at the salinity structure of water management, but they control their fresh water levels at those optimum stages right now to keep the saltwater level out from the well fields. And water management has been having workshops, year round with the Army Corps on what they're planning on doing. They haven't indicated what they're going to be doing. They just keep talking about, they're still in the planning stages and analysis, but at the end of the day, they have to keep the salt water out. And the only way to do that is to control the fresh water a little bit higher, because to keep the salt water from coming in. And then from a flood control standpoint, because you lose that storage in the canal, they're probably going to have to put forward pumping stations on these canals to provide flood protection for these basins. So that is something we're going to be looking at in the update of the stormwater master plan. We're going to look at the facilities master plan that Pennoni did and see what data we can use from that to kind of blend in what we're trying to accomplish here. But our update is going to include an improved model of the village with the planned improvements and the improvements that would reduce imperviousness to their village rights of way, and compare those benefits and see if they're feasible, and show their costs as well. But that's pretty much what we're going to be looking at for the update.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I will open it to you, Chairperson Carpenter, because I know you were involved in all of this, and so if you had any, thing to add to it, any questions, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Manager. I definitely do have some questions and thoughts, but I saw Hugh had his hands up. I can wrap it up at the end here. Hugh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is, a whole lot goes into the issue of just how permeable is the ground underneath El Portal, the aquifer. How fast does the water, go out? So like talking about things like ponds and stuff doesn't make sense anyway, as long as it's an area where the water is going to drain down into the aquifer, and the reality is that, through all these past flood events, there are only two areas in the village that seem to still have a kind of long-term problem: the El Jardín area and the Sherwood Forest Park area. The second thing is, it's not entirely correct to say we don't know what the water management district is going to do. It seems pretty clear. I can't pull it up fast enough to share, but I finally found what looks like the final drawing from a detailed water management workshop on the pumps that they're going to put next to the S27. And it's a pretty massive pump system, diesel powered pumps. And I think it seems pretty evident that what the plan is, we see it on the south side of the river where they have a pump station for the low elevation county level that gets flooded down there. And we have these pumps. Now, the forward pumps that they're going to put next to the S27 obviously can't handle all the flood water. But I think what the strategy is prior to a flood event. I mean, now they try to get the water level in the river as low as possible for storage. And, you know, that's what that's going to be for, I think, to run the water level down, to have storage capacity in the river. You know, then they have the pump in the unincorporated county areas south of us, which is a much larger area than our flooded area. So they have pumps there that run, you know, one big pump that pumps water into the river. It's been sort of a problem in the past because the river is too high, you're pumping water in, but now we're going to have this huge forward pump that's going to get it down. So one question is, you know, I know there's been long discussion and there was a proposal in the LMS for El Portal to have a big pump somewhere in the El Jardín area.
No, it was excuse me, Hugh. It was in the this was planned a long time ago. It was on the off Northwest 5th Avenue, 87th there, and that's the lowest
there
part
were
in the
two
village.
proposals in the LMS, but this is the I think it was 2 million, 2.3 million one. Anyway, my feeling is it's probably not necessary because we have a much smaller area in El Portal, and if the river itself is pumped down, then the water's going to go out through the aquifer. I mean, the El Portal will be drained anyway without a pump. So that I just wanted to update that. I mean, the other thing that's really important for the village that the task force has raised many times is, you know, what's the control level that the district is talking about to allow the water in the river, if you're going to effectively drain upstream, you know, given sea level rise and losing hydraulic advantage, the only thing that works is gravity. So like, to get gravity, you have to have the water level in the river go higher. To what height? We don't know. I mean, there was talk at one point of 5 or 6 feet. You know, 5 or 6 feet puts 3 feet of flooding in the village. I think that's been an operating assumption of the Little River AAA, but, you know, it's very important for El Portal to know that. But aside from that, you know, sort of in normal times, I think green infrastructure is very important. And I think these ideas are fabulous, you know, so I'm just kind of nitpicking on the water management side.
Thank you. I have some comments and thoughts as well, but I wanted to give anyone else a chance to chime in. Colin, go ahead.
Just a general question: is anybody concerned about the pumps, these pumps in the river just pumping out polluted water into the bay? Has that been discussed at all by anybody on the civil side and on the master planning side?
The polluted water goes in the bay no matter what. I mean, that's why these kind of events are so horrible for the bay. There's only one place for the water to go. So,
I mean, not necessarily, Hugh, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, there's no place to store it. I mean, yeah, you can store. There should be retention basins way upstream, like, you know, where the water starts. I mean, that's what they did in the, you know, in the Tamiami Canal project. They have a huge retention basin at the edge of the Everglades that stores an enormous amount of water. And they should be doing that like in Hialeah somewhere or further out. You know, that would be the best thing.
Yes, and that Tamiami Canal basin, the municipalities that were hit hard back in the day when Irene and Tropical Storm Leslie were hit, you know, Sweetwater, South Miami, and I think Flagami, if I'm not mistaken. You know, we did a lot of retrofitting for the city of Sweetwater, and we installed a lot of, oh, not a lot, but a good amount of pump stations there. But for water quality, we had to do some on-site retention of that initial first flush before we pump out. And all cities that implement these stormwater retrofit projects have to provide some level of water quality treatment before they can discharge their stormwater. That's what I haven't done a stormwater retrofit project that didn't have a water quality treatment component.
That's why at the last meeting I suggested maybe, you know, like the mayor should talk to Hialeah, or the village should talk to Hialeah, because that, if you look at the C7 basin, Hialeah accounts for a huge amount of where the stormwater comes from. So,
sure,
you know, we're paired. We can't do anything about Hialeah polluted water once it gets to El Portal, but you know, we should be supporting each other.
Yeah.
And that's my specific question to the civil and the master planning team is are these discussions being had as you enter the planning phases of this project for El Portal? And the specific question is, anybody discussing polluted water going into the bay? Has anybody brought up?
Miami Waterkeeper is about to start raising Holy Hill with a lot of money in this.
So I can speak to that because Everglades Law Center works on stormwater work throughout Miami-Dade County, and every municipality has an MS4 stormwater permit and is required to. Everyone thinks the MS4 permits are about flooding, but they're only about water quality. And in order to comply with your MS4 permit, you have to be undertaking certain water quality requirements to clean it to the maximum extent practicable. I think the problem is that there's not widespread compliance with those requirements across the county.
So, I mean, I guess my question is the civil and master planning team having these conversations with anybody? Is that a part of that as they enter this process for El Portal? And I'm not sure if that question can be answered. That's just directing it at
one. No, I can answer that directly. Yeah, no, that's not part of the scope.
Okay.
Or at least our scope. I can't speak for.
No, again, we would. I mean, we're doing the updates specifically for the village. I mean, we are aware there are other areas that were developed long before regulatory criteria was in place, and their stormwater is leaving their site, you know, untreated. But that's something, you know, that is kind of being addressed with the MPDS permit that Elizabeth mentioned earlier, because municipalities are required to monitor their outfalls, either through some cooperative agreement with the county, or they do it themselves. And if they find a hot spot in some areas, then they can trace it to, then that's what they follow up with that. But yeah, we're strictly, you know, handling the village update of the master plan.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Colin? You're good.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say thank you guys so much to everybody for bringing this concept together and bringing Pluserbia and Orlando and everybody to update our master plan and update our CDMP and all the related regulations. I think this is fantastic and something that, you know, will really help set us up well for the future. So thank you guys. I think that's amazing. My biggest concern, again, being completely supportive of this concept, just getting in the weeds a little bit. My biggest concern is that, you know, when we have these big flooding events, the groundwater is inundated, we have standing water above ground. And so in times like that, traditional infrastructure like French drains aren't really achieving anything. And so it feels like what we need to be doing is finding storage to keep the dirty water out of the river and bay in the first place, but to also keep the flood water obviously out of people's homes and properties and streets so that we can drive. And I guess, Orlando, my concern, when, I hear one talk about bioswales, that sounds like a stormwater pond to me, right? Or it can be used through our stormwater master planning as a form of storage for stormwater. But you expressed some concerns about, definitely space is an issue, right? But about creating like a stormwater pond that would retain or detain a significant amount of water. And so that would be my only concern in some of the background you were talking about, is that you're potentially ruling out a stormwater pond as a source of storage and water quality.
I wouldn't
cleaning.
call a bioswale a pond, but it's a retention system. And, there's, like he was mentioned earlier, the soil conditions in El Portal aren't the greatest. The soils don't perk very well.
Right.
And so the exfiltration trench or a bioswale or a stone tech system that's like a wide French drain system, they're limited to the permeability capacity of the existing soil. You're gonna, with these systems, you buy some volume underneath the ground with the French drain or the bioswale or what have you. But there comes a time when the ground is so saturated, water isn't going anywhere. So, and especially in the lower lying areas of the village, I think in our master plan, we didn't recommend any French drain in the lower areas because they provided no benefit. We will be installing rock in the ground and they'd be full of water already at time zero. But on the other hand, because the village has, pretty unique topography where you got higher grades up to the north, we can try to capture some of that water that's heading downhill, so to speak, and capture it in those French drain or bioswale systems to kind of slow things down and try to help the lower lying lands in the village. And then, of course, the other issue that we have with the master plan is trying to get, I guess, cooperation with property owners to provide an easement to get the village a usable positive outfall to the river. You had existing outfalls, but back in the day when these things were put in, these are straws that are out there. We were fortunate enough to replace 2 of them in the west, but we've had no luck in El Jardín. And any other phase that we do out there, it does hinge on getting you an improved outfall to the river. But for the most part, that's what we're trying to do, is just alleviate, capture some of that water up in the higher lands and let it cascade a little bit, attenuate it slower so that we can give the lower lands a chance to contain their water and get it out. But if you get a storm like Fort Lauderdale got back in last summer, that's a no system is designed for that, and so
Orlando, if I may
add. Orlando,
sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that was really helpful. Thank you. That's exactly what what I would hope to get out of this as a resident and task force member is exactly what you said. Finding, it doesn't have to be one giant stormwater in the middle of the pond. I'm sorry, one giant stormwater pond in the middle of the village, but finding small opportunities through even little things like bioswales, or we talked about the way that we can plant trees so that they uptake groundwater, just all these little things and having those work together through, Plus Sorbia's great plan here. So that's exactly what I heard from you, Orlando. So that's great to hear. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure, you're welcome.
And that's part of what I was going to tell you guys. I wish we had all the answers, but the intent of this meeting is to tell you that we're about to get started, so we don't have all the answers, and we want to discover, I think, those answers with you guys, and not just you guys, but I think that we need to let you in a little secret. We have to have you help us educate the rest of the residents as to the importance of some of these things. Yeah, and I'm just picking on the biosoils because that's what we just were discussing. But some people might say, I don't want that thing in front of my property, and yet if that is a solution that helps the entire community to solve or to help mitigate some of that stormwater issue, then we will need those people like yourselves that understand the importance of a community working together to solve these large issues, to help again educate the rest of the residents. But we don't have all the answers, and I think that we can all agree that things are not getting better, right? I wish they were, but all these stormwater events are getting worse, etc. And I what Orlando, what their team and our team, and together with you guys, we need to begin to start looking at is what you were saying, Elizabeth, was a number of tools that work together. There's not one single tool that's going to solve everything. In fact, not all the tools are going to solve everything all the time. Orlando just pointed out the Fort Lauderdale thing. I can only imagine if that happened in El Portal, but we can begin to mitigate. And I think that at the end of the day, what we're looking for is an integrated incremental system that we can put in place, right? So integrate all the potential tools that we have at our disposal, and make them so that we can increment their impact over time as things potentially can and will get worse. One of the things that I will also add, we just finished last year the new zoning code for Miami Beach, which looked at, Miami Beach is in much worse condition than you guys are. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
But zoning also will have to eventually begin to look at how water affects properties, and especially those properties that are at ground level. And so it's a multi-pronged approach that needs to be taken if the village wants to remain in place. If we were back in the 1920s, they'd probably add about 5 foot of dirt before they started building homes. But I think they didn't know back then, and you guys are stuck with what you got. So we've got to do our best to mitigate.
And I think
that sounded super loom and gloom.
Yeah,
that sounded super gloomy. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Miami-Dade County is revising their building code to require private property owners to do some on-site retention and with their expansion, and limiting their expansion of imperviousness on their lots. A lot of folks, just put out their pool decks right up to the property line and put the fence right there at the property line, and have impervious pavers or what have you up to their property lines. And I think Miami-Dade is coming up with proposed land building codes to address some of that, and maybe that's something that can be applied in the village in the future if that code gets ratified. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that my understanding, Orlando, but you're probably in the weeds more than I am, is that the village is bound, like that does apply to the village if it does get passed.
Okay.
Colin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Juan for your explanation and for the civil discussion. And I know that you don't have the answers, and this is such a complex issue. And I just wanted to say that my concern living here on Little River, and probably somebody who's going to experience flooding realistically at some point in my ownership of this house, is that there's a vacant land adjacent to the river currently that could be part of a much larger stormwater treatment system related around stormwater detention. And as I go out and paddleboard on the river once a week and fly fish for tarpon and see the manatees, I can't help but imagine that with the amount of endangered animals that we have in the river, that this specific corridor isn't just a front runner for some serious funding and some serious creativity as it relates to ecological restoration, stormwater management, and some big ideas that we could bring to the table for some of these vacant lots along the river while not discouraging development. And so I just, I'm very, I feel very strongly about that. And I want to try to create those conversations with you and the other people involved in this to make sure that we're vetting out all solutions beyond smaller scale bioswales and other stormwater treatment systems that are great. They're helpful. They're not to be overlooked, but the problem is massive. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
And I would hope that you would also bring that conversation out in public and have those conversations not just with us, right? Because I hate to use the phrase, but it takes a village. You need to get the rest of the stakeholders, the rest of the residents. You need to raise awareness. I think that this is a project that I'm really happy that the mayor and the manager put us together and started kicking this project forward, because I don't think that there's enough awareness from what I've noticed in El Portal about this issue, and I think that this project is an opportunity to raise that awareness. And Mayor, I think that this is an opportunity to tell your residents that unless you all work together, there's not going to be a dry future for El Portal, if you know what I mean. So again, I that's why I'm excited about this project, because there's a lot of aspects to it, but there's a community aspect that I'm very interested in seeing, and I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction and how we bring everybody on board on these solutions.
I just see Kristen has her hand up, and she led a big effort, I think, last year in this direction. You guys have to get back to that. And remember the trailer park area too. What Colin says applies there totally.
Yep. Sorry
for interrupting you, Kristen. But.
No, actually, I'm appreciating all the conversations, and I just want to, amplify what Juan said about just, I do think that we have such an amazing group of people in this committee. It blows my mind every time we have these conversations that one of the smallest municipalities in Miami has one of the most robust sustainability conversations at the local level. But just on a practical level, Elizabeth, I want to let you know I have a hard stop at 5:30. And so I didn't want us to get right up on time on that time and then have to bounce off of that, letting you guys know. But I appreciate the call and I standing by for us to start to get the rest of the village involved in the conversation, because I think it's right that needs to happen.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. It sounds like everybody is super supportive, and we're all very excited about this. So thank you guys for bringing it, and I think we hear you on this is the beginning, and we'll have lots more conversations about this with your all's guidance. So thank you again for that.
May I add, Chair Carpenter, just one more thing. So that said, and we appreciate your support and anything you can add, and just getting community members, in the know. We want to present this to the village council. We haven't done that yet, but the proposals and this plan for the February council meeting, because we're also, trying to identify funding and all of that. And I think we've got that covered, but we'll be presenting it in February. So in a month, we'll hope that you come and support, but also, bring any questions beforehand so we can have that all prepared for that meeting. So thank you all for the opportunity and your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you for flagging that, Manager. I think we'll probably have another, do you know when that meeting will be? Maybe we'll have another task force meeting before then.
Yeah, we'll bring it before the council for the February 27th meeting. So it's got to be, the Tuesday before the 27th that we would, I guess the 20th would be what the final submission package will be. presented.
Great, thank you. We can
Yeah.
put that on the next agenda item as well, but whatever meeting we have before that, so we can hopefully provide whatever support would be useful to you guys before you go before the council. All right, anything else on this? Thank you guys again. This is I'm really excited about this. I think this sounds amazing.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say, if I could, Madam Chair, I just want to say thank you to not only all of you all, but definitely to you know, our engineer and our planners, Mr. Rubio, you know, Juan, Camilla. I just want to say that, you know, for them to, and thank you, Madam Chair and Manager Lou, for, you know, all of us to kind of come together and kind of have this and it's interesting, like I said at the very beginning, kind of have it to where we're all coming together on this for, you know, the same reasons, but for also multiple reasons. It's going to always benefit like El Portal, like right now and going into the future. And Mr. Rubio and Manager Lou and myself, you know, we're just going to keep it right here. But as she quickly slid by, we've already looked into some of the funding for this. So again, Manager Lou and I with the funding, we got it on lock, people, got it on lock. Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys.
We're adjourned.
No, not quite, but I think we can move on to the next agenda item.
Just
but
we're
if
dismissed.
Yes, if you all need to go, Orlando, of course, I think we're probably done with this agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camilla. Thank you guys so much. It's wonderful. You're welcome to stay, of course.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So moving on, that's a great segue. We're talking about community involvement and ways that we can bring all of this to community. Good segue to this Saturday's FIU Climate Resilience Walk. So the mayor, Hugh, and I spoke to Tiffany again about this over the weekend, and just wanted to update you all on what the kind of run the show is going to look like. The climate walk starts at 10 o'clock at Village Hall, and we're basically going to go over by Hugh's house. He's kind enough to let us pop into his backyard and see the river and the structure, you know, explain that we're by the structure there, walk down to the east side of Sherwood Forest Park, past the Tequesta Burial Mound, where the mayor is going to give us a little bit of history. And the reason we're walking that is to show the significant elevation change from, you know, up by the mound all the way down to Sherwood Forest Park, and talk about some of the stormwater infrastructure there and higher areas draining to lower areas, et cetera. And then return back to Village Hall. And then that's pretty much from El Portal's, like this team's perspective, or where we're going to be speaking. The county's going to be there. And then FIU through Tiffany is leading the, what's the focus group part of it. Have people divided out into the tables, and they're going to be getting feedback on what residents would like to see, what problems they're dealing with, whether they feel like Resilience 305, the county's program, is, you know, addressing their needs on a very local level. So that's what Tiffany shared with us. You know, we've just kind of been helping to facilitate it. It's FIU's project, but just wanted to share that with you guys and ask, you know, I know Maribel has already been doing this, but just to share with anybody that you know in the community that is interested in attending. There's lunch and a gift card, $25. So I think the more people, the better, for especially when we have the county as the leaders, you know, of the AAA, as that we have their ears there. So it'd be great for them to hear from the folks that, you know, aren't on this call. And that's that. Any thoughts, questions?
Good.
See you there.
Okay. Awesome.
Free lunch.
Free lunch, exactly.
$20, right, for people that finish the focus group?
25.
25.
And lunch.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay, any questions on that? I'm just passing on through via Tiffany. We're just helping facilitate, just yeah, I think that's how it's gonna go, but okay, great. H4, the LMS funding, and I know, Kristen, you have 5 minutes. So I don't know is this, Mayor, is this your agenda item or Hugh?
It's myself and Hugh. Just really quickly, so we're gonna slide through this. Madam Chair, just wanted to when I have Mr. Gladwin jump in a second. Right after we met last time, he sent the email. The good news is that when he looked again, we are on the list. We're like further down on the list, but we weren't completely taken off the list. So that's okay. A good thing. The bad thing is what kind of led me to put this back on. I hadn't even talked about Hugh on this part. He probably looked at it and was like, why is this back on here? But what reminded me to put this back on, and when I put invite was because I wanted to ask him, because remember last time we were on here, I was saying, okay, well, like, or at that time, because we didn't know if we were back on yet or not, I was like, well, how do we get back on? Or is it automatic every year? Or do we have to reapply every year and things like that? And then now that we're back on, he was telling us that, well, we're back on, but we're lower on the priority list. So I know that he's on the committee, and he was saying last time when we were on here that he couldn't really talk about it. So I don't know if, since he's a part of this as a consultant, if he can or can't, or even if he could be on here, if we were able to invite somebody from the LMS to come on here if possible, because I do have those questions. Like I have the questions like, okay, we're low on the priority list. How do we get up on the priority list? Like, is there something that we have to do? What are the steps to get up on the priority list? And I think one thing Q said was maybe, if we show that more people are affected, that's one way we can say in our report, so we can adjust our submittals and be like, oh, you know what? It's not only El Portal, but guess who else is affected? So maybe that's one way that he was kind of saying. But what are the other ways? Like, what's the processes so that we can we can fare better to get closer to that funding to get higher on the priority list? So I just wanted to see if we could bring somebody on from the LMS, since Hugh says he can't do it himself, to answer those questions, and we could ask whatever questions we ever have.
No, Can I comment on that? Oh,
of course, Hugh. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. What I was meaning before was on the steering committee that I'm on, just kind of certifies the pool, and it does make decisions, but I can't. That's the place where I can't advocate for El Portal. But I did at the last couple of steering, if I get a chance, I'll talk to Tiffany. She's on it, and the steering committee's not in the sunshine, so we can talk. But, but my concern was just, moving up in the rankings is just a matter of looking at the priority score sheet, and seeing if there are ways we can get more points. And, if we put in a proposal, let's say, to increase septic to sewer conversion in a big area, that increases the capacity of the river for flood coming out of upstream. So to me, that's the question maybe that we should address, perhaps with Robin, is a person from the county. But it seems to me where we are that a big factor is how many people benefit from this project. So we normally just put down the population of El Portal, which is tiny compared to, say, the population of the half of Hialeah that benefits from our having more flood resilience downstream. And that would raise our score. But the other thing that I couldn't figure out, and I don't have access to the whole list, perhaps you probably do, Orlando, don't you? Or the village? I don't know. I can't log on to the system to get the whole list, but before I had, and I just, I've been watching El Portal move up, and now suddenly they're not there. And this huge mass of money is about to come down from Ian, basically, from counties that haven't spent it. It comes down to us, to Dade. So, it's just sort of like making sure everything is there. And you said it was there. So I think there's a good chance that it will get down to where those projects are and they will get funded.
Yeah. Madam Chair, because we have a stop right now, but Madam Chair, so I didn't want to have this conversation right now, but I just wanted to know, and we can offline, Q can email me or whatever, but who is the person that would have all those answers, as far as pointage, as far as those things? Is there somebody I mean, Hugh, if you think like, well, I know the ins and outs of it, Mayor, you guys don't need to have anybody else from the LMS come on here to ask them these questions.
Well,
That's perfectly fine.
it would be Robin. I'm blanking on his last name. I think he actually did speak to the task force a couple of years ago. We had, or maybe it was another meeting. But I think he'd
Hugh,
be
I have the
very.
2018 LMS list here.
You don't have it?
I have the 2018 list.
2018.
If you want to see that.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
My only concern is
offline.
they were about to lose quorum.
Yeah,
we're about to lose quorum, you guys, because Kristen has to leave and she's the third member, and if we lose her, we have to stop the meeting automatically. That's the reason why we're trying to get through this. All right, so I'm going to Hugh. You and I will speak.
We'll
try to see if we can get Robin back on, and we'll have an LMS conversation.
Matthew Webb is here, so we still have.
No, Matthew Webb is gone. He had to go pick up his kids.
No, he's here. That's
is
true.
He back?
He's online.
Hold on, did he come back?
Yeah, I see him.
I'm back.
Oh, Matthew came
Good
back.
call, Maribel.
We're good. Thank you, Maribel. Well, Vice Chair McLean, if you have to go, but we're still going to have this conversation, though, Madam Chair. We'll have it next time because the meeting's supposed to be from 4 to 5:30 anyway. So,
thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I may have to go soon, but that's.
I got 2 more
continue.
minutes. Can we wrap it up in 2 minutes? Do we think we can wrap it up in 2 minutes?
Madam Chair, that's all I have to say for this. We'll get this back and we'll have an LMS conversation probably next time.
Wrapped up for me.
Maybe. Yeah, like, can we put that we can put it at the top of the agenda so we don't get, run out of time. Last thing, Mayor, with Tiffany, did you see Tiffany's thing about distributing flyers, whether you need support with that?
Yeah,
Saturday's event?
Yeah, I spoke to her. Yeah, so I called her. I got all the emails. I called her and we had a conversation about the food and everything. So I got you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Perfect. All right. Anything else? We need to pick another date, but maybe we could do that over email unless someone has a date.
The 7th, February 7th.
February 7th.
I'd just like to make a comment about the open seat on the committee task force.
Sure. Real quick though, February 7th, does that work for folks?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
I see.
Orlando, we're gonna make you a honorary member.
Our next president.
That's it.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, so we would need to have everybody else present if I'm traveling that day.
Matthew,
yeah, should be good for me. Should be good.
Okay. Orlando, we'll definitely have you back for the LMS though. We're gonna have you back for the LMS conversation. So
yeah, I have that list from 2018, I think, but it's the same projects unless you folks added projects since then.
Could we?
You want to see it?
No, not right now. Next time.
The 31st. It would be great to have everyone.
I'll email it to Christia and then she can share it with the group.
I can do the 31st. Thanks,
Orlando. The 31st work for people?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that January?
Mayor, would that work?
It might work. I have to go do I have to go set up the Opelika city state of the city address. Even if I can't, I'm just a liaison, you guys. I don't necessarily need to be here. I'll open it if possible.
I think we need you here, Mayor.
If possible,
we need you, Mayor.
Yeah.
But let's just say the 31st. Let's say the 31st because it's more important that Vice Chair McLean is here, you guys. I'm just a liaison. So let's say the 31st.
I think we can
I'll work it
find
out.
a day. I think we should find a day where everybody is available. We're small enough, We could. It doesn't have to be a Wednesday. If the 14th, I can't do the 14th.
The 21st is still before the meeting on the 27th.
21st.
We want to talk before the council meeting on the 27th, right?
Maribel can't do the 21st.
No. Let's do the 31st. I got y'all covered. The 31st, you guys. I'll do it from my phone, but we'll be good. Look,
yeah, maybe we can.
You all are the important ones. I'm just here to, put up the flag.
Maybe we can do it for an hour, Omar.
Yeah.
If that helps. Just keep it to an hour, right? Like we'll just.
There's not that much to talk about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So 31st. All right, I got you down.
Okay.
Put it up 31st, you guys.
All right.
Thank you for staying on for an extra second, Kristen. Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah,
all good.
I just wanted to mention this possible name. I haven't talked to her, but you guys know her better. But I think Zamira Diaz would be really good to be on the task force.
Really good.
I mean, she goes to She's been to a lot of the really important meetings, and she has been around a long time. I think when I've
Okay,
talked to her, she has
I will
really good
speak with her
perspective. What?
as a person that I know extremely well, like she's a best friend of mine. She's currently really busy with her daughter
Oh,
and
okay,
her
yeah. See, I
position, so I
don't
don't
know.
know if she'd be able to do it.
Yeah,
So you can ask her because it is a scheduled meeting, but I'm not expecting her to say, yeah, I'm totally in,
yeah, okay.
just because I know like her daughter.
Okay, so shall
So
I go ahead
I
and
like
ask
the
her?
suggestion though. Yeah, she's really great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
she's great.
she really has experience and perspective, so,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I think that's
Okay,
if she'll have us, that's a great
Thank you.
suggestion. I love that too. All right. Thanks, Q. Great idea. Any other business? Awesome. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Officially
Okay, so
adjourned
it's the
5:35.
31st.
31st at
Yes.
4 o'clock for just 1 hour. Thank you guys
Gotcha.
very
Okay.
much.
Thank
you all
you.
very much.
Bye.
Take care. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
Bye.
everything.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
okay, leave, where's the leave thing?